We acknowledge the traditional owners of country throughout Australia and recognise their continuing connection to land, waters and culture. We pay our respects to their elders past, present and emerging. This is Cheryl from Dja Dja Wurrung country.
Welcome a bit later than usual to the latest episode of the Beyond 90 pod, episode 84. I'm Eric Subihano, tonight's host, because our usual host Cheryl is not available, but thanks for joining us. Those of you either live, Apple Podcasts, however you choose to listen to the Beyond 90 podcast, and also our audience on both Joy Radio and Clutch Radio, thank you so much for tuning in. So I suppose I should introduce my fellow co-hosts. Firstly, Magellan Card, Brisbane Roar superfan, member of the Raw Core. You didn't get to see your team this week for reasons we'll get into later, but welcome, Match. And then a good week for our dynamic duo from Canberra, because you finally got to see your team win a game. So firstly, our Canberra correspondent, Stefan, who, Stefan has been like suffering all season at Viking Park, now finally had to celebrate a win. But also Dale, who lives in Sydney like myself, but very much a Canberran at heart. Welcome to both of you.
Thank you. Happy birthday, Dale.
Thank you, gents. And Madge, of course. Getting older, grayer, wiser, something like that.
Yes, that's definitely the right idea. So I suppose we'll crack on. Firstly, we do have to acknowledge a listener who provided us some wonderful information off a question I asked last week. So is at Annie O on Twitter, who sent us a very thoughtful direct message. My question whether Adelaide United Pride merchandise would be available, because of course the Reds have a Pride game this weekend. And she said, yes, it's available via the shop section on the club website. So thank you so much for the info, Annie. And as I've said in the past, one can never have enough Matilda McNamara jerseys. So I've ordered one with the rainbow name and numbers. I'm going to absolutely love it. She also did clarify, did Annie, that we asked the question about transfer fees to the Dub, so she had a bit of insight. When BK Hacken signed Dylan Holmes, a modest transfer fee was paid to Adelaide United. Now, on to Cheryl's lovely initiative of matching episode numbers with the Matildas cap of the same number. We're up to Matildas cap number 84. Her name was Carly Pumper. She is the last of the 1994 debutants. Her grassroots club, she has two listed, the wonderfully named Stormbirds and also Canberra City. She made 16 appearances for the Matildas, 4 A internationals, including 3 World Cup qualifiers. According to the Encyclopedia of Matildas, Carly moved into coaching and data analytics and was a video analyst for the Matildas leading into the 2000 Olympics. Now, the background from a friend of Beyond 90, Sarah Groob. She was a fast and strong striker who could dance through all sorts of defenses. A Canberra local who played for Stormbirds, great team name, and Canberra City, my team, as in Group's team. Carly was a dominant force in junior and youth football and futsal, and when knee injuries impeded her progress, she transitioned from an on-field to a support role as one of the team's first video analysts. So first up, let's get on to the news, and I think a lot's been discussed, but we should cover it. The debacle regarding the inability of Wellington Phoenix to actually sign a backup goalkeeper while Lily Alfeld is on international duty with the Football Ferns in the United States. Dale, did you have any particular thoughts about the situation?
It's interesting. I mean, it's not. I'll be honest with you. It's not a situation I saw being an issue at the start of the season, because I thought it would have been sorted by now. But in saying that, I think Alfeld's been really good. Alfeld's been really good through the season, so obviously deserves her A international call up, and good luck to her. Good work to her. But yeah, it's been interesting. This is one of the things around having Wellington based in New South Wales, or based in Australia more accurately, around the issues that this would have posed. But again, I kind of feel for all parties in this. Like Football Australia they obviously didn't do very well in the communication of the issue. The issue obviously being a cross-confederational issue as well. The Phoenix being based here, the other players being based in New Zealand. It's just a bit of a bin fire, to be honest. But as I said, you kind of feel like we would have known or had a contingency plan or some form of plan going into the season. But yeah, obviously not. I think that their manager, head coach, made her feelings pretty well known in the press conference prior to this around them not being contacted or not being able to get a call back from Football Australia, which I think is a bit of a joke. But yeah, I think it's like, as I said, I feel for all involved, but I feel like this could have been dealt with like 6 weeks ago.
Yes. There's a couple of issues here. Firstly, Wellington have a cap both on the number of Kiwis they can sign and the number of foreigners they can sign. So they would have had to release one of their players in order to sign a keeper. And I know there was an odd quirk with this, that there is a young keeper named Amy Hall who's training with them, but Amy is not yet 18 years old and therefore cannot sign with the Phoenix because it would count as an international transfer. And you can't have international transfers for under 18s, even though she would only be traveling from Sydney to Wollongong. But
yeah, hey, and because obviously she's not in the Wellington youth system, because that doesn't really exist at this point. She can't be considered a youth player with the Phoenix because she's not come through their academy. So
yes, that's right.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
It's just unfortunate, I think, but hopefully, it'll be sorted for next season.
Yeah, that's definitely something on FA's and APL's list to sort out, because it's a bit of a ridiculous situation.
It's also an extensive list.
Yeah, of course, yes. Now, we'll, I think, cover who exactly the backup keeper was for that game when we get to that, and I have lost my show notes for some reason. Okay, so we'll crack on with ended up being 6 games played since our last pod. So firstly, Stefan and Dale, happy days for you. On Tuesday at Wanderers Centre of Football, Western Sydney Wanderers 0, Canterbury United 5. So Stefan, go on then. Floor is yours.
Well, wasn't this a great game for the green-hearted souls out there? So lovely to see, beautifully synergistic in a 5-0 victory in Grace Mart's 50th game, and she was presented with flowers by the team after the game and put out a lovely post about what a time with the club has meant to her. But yeah, just really lifted my spirits, I've got to say. And if it's done that to me after this one game, I can only imagine what it's been like for the coaching staff and the team, having scored such a great victory after the tough season that they've had. So I think they were finally received some benefit in having a bit of a consistent lineup. They've had the similar faces in the starting squad for the last 2 or 3 games, and it's finally doing the trick, I think. So I guess just to kick off with, beautiful corner by Grace Maher under Michelle Heyman's head for the first goal. Previous Canberra United keeper Sham Khamis would probably have a game that she'd not look back on fondly with the second and third goals, where the second goal she released a ball out which was intercepted by Laura Hughes, who put it through for Chelsea Washington to tuck away nicely. And the third goal was after half time with that astounding Chloe Middleton beautiful little chip into.
You didn't want to. Sorry, keep going.
Yes. Yeah, and then Margot Rabin, who's looked in fine touch, I've got to say, all season. She hasn't been a starter every game, but she has really looked the goods, cool head, nice skills. She's come away with 2 late goals. So, yeah, like I said, it just really lifted the spirits, and it'll be interesting to see how they go in the coming week when they got 2 home games, one tomorrow night and one on Friday night, against 2 teams who have got better attacks, I think, than what we saw with Western Sydney. I haven't really talked about Western Sydney, but they were in there.
I don't need to, don't worry.
Camped in their own half for a lot of this game, and just seemed to be stunned a bit by proceedings. I think weren't as combative as we saw them play as they played against Newcastle later in the round, I thought. So so for me, it's going to be interesting to see how the Canberra defence goes in the next two games, next two home games against teams with stronger attacking lineups against them. So, yeah, Dale, what did you think?
I think that you make a good point around consistency of the lineup. One of the things that I really enjoyed was the central defensive combination. I think Kieran Horan as the central defensive combination works a lot better. Kind of both big bodies to kind of shield the goal, which is no disrespect to young Vidmar. I think that she's kind of been really good and she's grown into the role. But there's been a few times where, a little bit inexperienced or a little bit unwieldy at some point. But I think that was a really good start. Wanderers, they were the first goal. Michelle Heyman scoring in the middle of four defenders and the goalkeeper was just absolutely criminal. Mm-hmm. In fairness, though, I must say, I like that as badly as Wanderers lost, I like that they kind of kept it to their kind of stuck to their guns a little bit. Towards the end, they kept trying with the high line. They kept trying to at least play out from the back. They're kind of trying to play the right way. But as you said, Stefan, they made a few really critical errors. The pass out the back from Karmas to get collected, that was really not good enough. And then you had I think it was the second Rabin goal where Canberra just chucked the ball up I think it was from a goal kick.
Yeah, no, it's just back pass to Chloe Lincoln in free play, and she just bombed it over the top. That was
which is just fast player, go fast, kick ball and goal. It was like under eights. But in as I said, with respect to Wanderers, I like that they're at least trying. But yeah, a really good win for Canberra. You could feel that it had been coming for a little bit. Obviously, Wellington, I feel, was a bit of an aberration. But it had been coming. And glad to see them get the chocolates finally, and a good trip for the Canberra fans, because it's obviously just right up the M5 and then up the Hume and then up the M7. So good trip for them, and good to see a few there.
There was lots of cheers on the telecast. It was
it was good to see a few there.
They were quite loud as well. So I made the trip to Wanderers Centre Football, so it was good that they've travelled up for a very awkward kickoff time. I did have a few thoughts. Interesting, for once, Laura Hughes on the receiving end of yellow cards tackles instead of getting booked herself. Chloe Middleton, one of the few Illawarra Stingrays players to not sign for the Wanderers, scoring against them. I thought that was funny. We've mentioned Chloe Lincoln's assist. I'll leave my thoughts on the Wanderers so we don't get into trouble, but I'll leave with a fun fact. Canberra have now scored more goals at Wanderers Centre Football than the Wanderers have.
Wow.
Not a great stat.
Yeah. Margot Rabin's first goal too. First goal.
Two goals.
Yeah, first two goals. Two. I think it was her 14th appearance in the dub. So, I mean, she's obviously a very experienced overseas campaigner, French-born player. So, good to see.
It's always nice seeing a player get a goal against their old team as well. So
yes. It is like literally why I get up in the morning. So moving on, I think I'll let Madge have first go at the game on Wednesday. It was the grand final rematch, Melbourne victory 2, Sydney FC 2 at wherever City Vista Recreation Reserve is. I looked at it in Google Maps. It is in the middle of nowhere.
I'm not convinced that it's a real place.
Yeah, I mean, it does sound like a made-up venue in something like Pro Evolution Soccer. You're right.
Yeah,
but it looks like a really nice venue.
It does. It has big, like cashed-up third-tier team energy about it, with a nice grandstand and obviously a very well-equipped kitchen and like some seats. But yeah, I think it's kind of like Wanderers, where you've got like one main ground and then they'll have a bunch around it. But weird old spot.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, but I mean, this game, Sydney, it's like, I think both these games, it's like Sydney have had plenty of chances, and this one, they at least got some points out of this one against Melbourne. But Melbourne's sort of at the end there, coming back with the two goals. Sydney looked like they've been cruising pretty much this season, and there's been a few stumbles, and it's made it really quite tasty for the end of the season, I think. This and the City game that we'll get to later. So I actually, I did watch this game. I can't remember too much about it, to be honest, though, but except at the end and some very happy Victory fans there in the corner. But yeah, 21 shots on goal for Sydney to 11. Sorry, 21 shots, sorry. Actually, no, there was shots on target to 11 for Melbourne Victory. So, and I think it's a fairly similar situation for the game against City. So maybe not quite as lopsided. But Sydney need to start putting some chances away. They need to capitalise on their dominance, I think.
Yeah, and it looked that way for most of 2/3 of the game. I thought point out Charlie Rule's cross for Remy Simpson's goal that made it 2-0 to Sydney was sensational. But yeah, you're right. You're all right. By the end, there were Catherine Zimmerman's switch time equalizer wasn't that surprising to me anyway. It just felt like it was coming. Oh, by the way, friend of Beyond 90, Catherine Zimmerman, who now I believe has 12 goals in 21 A-League women's games. So that's clearly good to see, kind of an NPL import, if that makes sense, or an import that's come from NPL making her mark. But yeah, and I think we won't mention this the last time. Sydney will be disappointed with the defending for the 2 goals they conceded. And that equalizer from the seconds of a set piece exposed one of Sydney's weaknesses defensively. They're not very tall, apart from Charlie Rule, who's 7'1", looks like.
Yeah, she's also only 19, so she's going to keep.
Yes,
just needs to put a few muscles on that body, and she'll be pushing people around for fun.
That hasn't looked bad. It's like, well, they're now, when you take into account games in hand, they're on the back foot for a premiership.
They look really tired.
Pretty brilliant and pretty and pretty dominant for the entire season. So they could be ruining this.
Yes. Yeah. So snuck in during the halftime broadcast, Western United have planned ahead and have a women's coach.
That's right.
Charlotte Rule, yes, she does need to hit the weights. She could do a lot worse than asking Kate Taylor and Mackenzie Barry for advice. My internet connection's unstable, so sing out if you can't hear me anymore. But
aren't we all?
That was my yes. Yes, indeed. So that was my very poor segue into the Friday game. Wellington 1, Adelaide United 4. A game originally scheduled by Thursday, but delayed by some insane weather with hail on the pitch and Kelly Brown making a hail angel during the day. And then right as the Paramount broadcast started, Teo Pellizzeri does the intro, then says, hang on, we've got some last minute news. The game's been called off. It was a situation I can't remember seeing in quite some time, but credit to everyone involved, Paramount, APL, Wellington, Wynn Stadium, for getting the fixture rearranged on the email dropped in my inbox about midnight. So well done to all of you. For who wants to have a go at basically giving their thoughts on this one?
I thought Wellington were actually a lot better than I thought they were going to be. Obviously they've got a few players out with football ferns duties, having to wait around in the change rooms for a while, Adelaide being a much more fancied opponent. I thought that Wellington actually put up a really good fight in this one. In saying that though, Adelaide just clearly the better team on the day. All 4 of their goals were pretty good, except for the own goal. We'll come to that in a moment. But I thought that they were pretty good. Grace Jarley's finish, absolute banger.
Yeah.
What a hit.
That was a great...
I was watching it live and I was like, I don't quite know what she's going to do with her body here. She's kind of turned in the wrong direction and then just smashes it in the bottom corner. And I'm like, oh, well, that's why you're a professional athlete and I'm not.
Yeah. I think I also really enjoyed, I think it was Dorba. I just love it when you just run through a sliding tackle.
Yeah, it's just walked through the shot. It was so nice.
It's real nice, yeah.
McKeegan's own goal. I think that the Wellington reserve goalkeeper is going to have nightmares about that. I felt really, really sorry for her. But yeah, it was tough. Also, just kind of it's just one of those signs of inexperience that like Wellington will get out of their game this season and then be better for it next season. And obviously Edwards might not be there next year, as often as obviously playing in this game because they'll have Alpha. But it's just one of those things that you've got to make that mistake at some stage in your footballing life.
Didn't like 3 or 4 teams do it like earlier this season?
That's right.
Oh, yeah.
Every round, like the first 5 rounds, had one of those. So
except for the Wanderers who just let the other team score these days. But anyway, also Chelsea Dorber and Fiona Wirtz, both on double figures for the season, 10 each, which is wonderful, especially in the context of Adelaide's historical struggles in this competition. That they're just those two are. And Fiona Wirtz was player of the match for me, just dancing around tackles the whole game and a typically lovely left-footed finish. Also, the
Adelaide. I just want to say, like, I mean, everyone who isn't like a Sydney, Melbourne, or City fan are now Adelaide fans, right?
Yeah,
except maybe
I agree.
Perth are still holding on.
Well, Perth,
bit of hope. But I'm well on the Adelaide bandwagon here.
They play the right way, which I think is really, really positive. And they're also kind of pushing forward local youth, which is really, really good.
Oh, good. And they're reaping the rewards for some planning over successive seasons because this all started like 4 years ago.
Yeah, which is really, really positive.
Yep. And before I forget, I'll just say that in terms of the finals, I mean, I think the ideal situation for me is victory, bottle it so Adelaide and Perth get in. It's the joys. That's what great what you can say when Cheryl's not here.
Yeah.
I was going to say, otherwise you'd be booted from the call, unfortunately.
Yes.
Quick shout out to Mackenzie Barry too, standing captain. Thought she worked really hard, had a really physical game. Got tailed up once or twice by Fiona Wirtz out on the wing, but just put in some really strong tackles and did her best in the absence of Kate Taylor, I think. So
some players, as we said about Grace Maher, some players grow a third limb when they get the captain's armband. I think she was a big candidate for that on the weekend.
Yeah, that's right. So I am all here for any and all Macabaza praise. So thank you so much for pointing that out, Stefan. Also, the situation we were talking about earlier, Charlotte Lancaster, normally a defender, was the volunteer for this game because rules stipulate you must have a keeper on the bench. So she was participating in the warm-ups. And there was a neat little quote from Thursday after the game was postponed. Gemma Lewis did it's not a post-match presser because the game was postponed. It's just a press conference. And she loved it and wanted to do.
Love that. Good to see.
Love to see that.
But
also,
sorry.
The only time we ever want to see an outfield player in goal is when it happens because of a red card. I mean,
farcical Saints.
Yeah.
Also, one of a kind jersey. She wore 57 instead of her usual 19, so one for the collectors.
I mean, that's an ugly number. 19 times 3 is the only reason I can. Why couldn't she just have 19? That doesn't make any sense.
I don't know. Like they have a heat press. That's what I said when we were talking about it off mic. So like surely they have a heat press. Maybe they just didn't have that color. I don't know.
Yeah.
Blame the APL.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So on to kind of Madge's territory and the game that never was, the postponed game between Brisbane Roar and Canberra United which was meant to be at Perry Park. So obviously you're local. What's going on?
It was originally supposed to be down the Gold Coast at the Gold Coast Knights, but it moved from there at the last minute to back to when I'm not actually sure why. I think previously the games had moved from there because of lots of rain and the pitch maybe not holding up. So I don't know for sure, but I suspect that may have been the issue. So we moved back to inner city Brisbane to home of football in Brisbane and Perry Park. And then, of course, hour and a half before the game, we got one of our typical afternoon Brisbane storms. And it was a real big one. And you can tell where all the holes in the gutters at Perry Park are when you get one of those storms. So it did absolutely flood the field. The sidelines drained pretty well, and we were hopeful that the middle would drain, but there was some, just very unplayable patches on the field. So it was called off, unfortunately, and with apparently no fields available to play the game the next day or to. So really tough luck, I guess, for Canberra, having to come up and then head back home, which is unfortunate. So disappointing because it was only called off. There was a delay of half an hour to start with, and then I think there was another storm cell coming that was, if they had gone ahead, even if they had decided to sweep the field, probably would have hit during the game, I suspect, and made it unplayable anyway. So really disappointing.
It seems wild to me that Brisbane, a city of 2.5 million people, the home of Queensland Rugby League, would have probably the second most rectangular venues of any city in Australia behind Sydney.
Nothing with decent, not many with decent grandstands or anything though.
That's true, but that you can't find a field. It's just, come on, what are we all doing?
I mean, I was suggesting, well, why can't we go to where they train, sort of at QSAC? And I don't know why.
Could they have played on the synthetic field at Perry Park?
I'm not sure if the fans would have been able to crowd around.
They can't do synthetics anymore. I think.
That's right.
The new PFA agreement, the synthetics are gone, so no more Cromer Park.
Martin anymore.
Yeah.
So just disappointing. You'd hope that there would be sort of contingency plans, and it's not as though Brisbane is unaware of inclement weather. It happens all the time, but here we are, and don't know when the game's going to be replayed at this point, when or where. So I suspect it'll probably end up being tacked on to an A-League men's game at some stage along the way, but which is unfortunate because it's always a great night. It's like a Friday night right in the heart of Brisbane at Perry Park. That's always a really fun just game, nice of the suburban small ground against two of the league's best record teams and have a great rivalry. And there were lots of, you could see there were lots of Canberra fans who turned up. There's, players who've got family in Brisbane, and it's just, it's just disappointing when you don't get to have that fun event.
Yeah, Vicky Linton told the Canberra Times that she felt the game would be replayed in the last week of the season before finals.
Yep.
Yeah,
that's what I was going to say.
There's not many spots left to do it, so we'll have to wait with bated breath as to when that's happening.
Yep. So on to the Saturday games. First up at Swan Street. I'm picking up Dale's habit of not shouting out sponsors in stadium names. Melbourne
stuff.
Victory 0, Perth Glory 2, and yes, I'll put it out there, as biased as I am, if Perth Glory make the finals, Alex Epakis is the coach of the year, regardless of what happens in the final series. That's what I think.
I think that's pretty reasonable.
Yep.
I think he'd be probably coach of the year, men or women. Honestly.
Yep, totally. So Perth getting it done in the second half. Those Deborah and Bella Harp set pieces, something I noticed watching her play for RPL Leichhardt in NPL New South Wales. They are always on the money. So Perth's first goal, it was credited to Miel Leth-Jans, although there's a lot of touches from Victory players before it went in, but we'll give it to the Danish player anyway. And then the lovely second goal, I believe, across from the substitute, Dean Keane. The flick pass from Sierra Hinson to keep it in play. And it's great to see Lena Karmas is still annoying defenders and referees. So Lena Karmas making her mark.
Third highest scorer in dub history?
Yes.
47 goals.
Yes, something like that, yeah.
And she's she's been around since date. She played in the WNSL, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
So she's been around the block.
So
it was a great goal though. That will be one that I think, obviously there were a bunch of really good goals in the men's league this week. We won't obviously go into detail, but that was one of those goals that you kind of people are sleeping on this one. That was a great goal.
Yeah. So I also liked Alex Epakis giving a glory debut to Claudia Mihocic, former Victory train on against Melbourne Victory, and she looked great as Victory kept a clean sheet. That's a kit. That's kind of like a different version of the You Didn't Wanna. It's just that was
Petty is a lifestyle. Never forget that.
Yeah, yes, it is. And then also, by the way, Neil Bennett wrote a 5 Things We Learned article on Victory versus Perth, which I'd encourage you to read, just for various perspectives on that, and more detail than we have time to go into on this podcast. But yeah, Melbourne victory, I think the short turnaround, 72 hours or less, might have been a factor with this loss for them. But onto the game played almost simultaneously up at what we've decided is called Cheryl Salisbury Field in Newcastle. Newcastle Jets 2, Western Sydney Wanderers 2. So I caught up the mini match. And onto discussions about, players having to have second jobs and whatnot. There was unfortunate news I heard in the intro. Sheridan Gallagher was injured by a horse at her work, so that's why she was out. That's
got to be one of the weirdest outs that we've had.
Yes, that's it's up there with some of the stuff you've heard in men's football, like Rio Ferdinand having his legs up on the coffee table for 8 hours while watching TV and getting injured that way. You may also want to Google Santiago Canizares bottle of shampoo and Dave Bezant bottle of salad cream if you want to be confused for a couple of minutes. Now, I also
out of that.
Yes. Yes.
Gonna get us an ACMA complaint for sure.
So a friend of Beyond 90, Leah Blaney, was on co-coms. I've loved Leah Blaney's co-coms whenever she's been on. She provides great insight into what teams are doing and also what they could be doing better. And I mean, as the young Matildas and future Matildas coach, it definitely comes with a certain kind of authority. But up in Newcastle, a good day for various types of Ashleys. So the Queen of Blacktown, Ashley Croft, scored against the Jets again. I absolutely love that. As a former Central Coast Mariners fan, I love someone that scores exclusively against Newcastle Jets. She also, for what it's worth, has scored in her last 2 games versus emerging Jets in NPL New South Wales.
It was a great goal too.
She just turned the player and
turned Taryn King and just sent her off for bread and milk. Off you go,
and then
just smashed it.
No placement, just maximum power, and Claire Queller could do nothing.
You have selected power drive.
Yes. The ball is in the net. And so, it's like what they call a proper center forwards goal, really. And of credit to Erica Holloway as well for the cross. So Elizabeth Eddy equalized Newcastle with a lovely penalty right into the bottom corner. 15-year-old Alexia Postolakis gave it away and then recovered to put the Wanderers back in front. So she's, I think, the youngest ever Western Sydney Wanderers goal scorer. So that's a bit easy for, as we all know, people at that age to let their heads drop. She's gotten straight back into it, put them in front. Wanderers almost won, but then second minute of stoppage time. Another first time A-League women goal scorer. Ashley Brodigan equalizing for the Jets. A nice assist from Marie Dolvik as well. Also, I like Dolvik well because there's some solidarity with fellow tattooed people. It was a feisty game. I totted it up 12 yellow cards by the end of it. That was
I'd expect nothing less from
that's quite something. That's my type of football. Yes. Yeah.
Also, we're just speaking of you mentioning the fact that Alexia Postolakis is, the youngest ever goal scorer, still not on Google's team sheets. She's that young. So when you go and search the game, she just comes up as a blank player.
So she's just number 21.
Yeah, she was just really weird, but really good goal. But as you said, I mean, the goal right at the end that Newcastle scored, you've got to feel for Wanderers.
Yes.
So
that's fair. So on to Sunday, I'll let the three of you decide who wants to talk about that. Melbourne City 2, Sydney FC 1. And I think it's over to what Madge was referring to. So I believe, I haven't done the maths, it's now in Melbourne City's hands. So if they win their last 3, they're premiers, aren't they?
Yeah, it is absolutely in their hands. They've got a game in hand over Sydney.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think anyone can leapfrog them. No, Adelaide are on a game ahead of them. So, it's in Melbourne City's hands, totally.
Yep. My first point is they changed it to Swan Street, the lovely green seats over there, which and robbing fans of the chance to have the famous Savlaki role at Kingston Heath Soccer Complex. So that's my gripe with the scheduling. But onto the goals. So Rihanna Polacina, more quality from City's midfield magician. That was a well taken strike, assisted by Caitlin Torpey, who then scored the second goal off I'm happy to call the pass of the season so far from Tyler J. Vlinich on her weaker foot, if you don't mind.
It was
what a pass.
Brilliant goal, yeah.
My goodness. And then interesting one in the second half. Chances at both ends. Sydney FC, my goodness, they'll want some of those back. They missed some sitters.
So many. The last week, they've missed so many opportunities.
Yes. So Princess Abini did pull one back from the penalty spot with just over 10 minutes remaining, with the good old FIFA tactic of hitting it straight down the middle. The tactic that will annoy your friend the most in multiplayer.
Yes.
But yes, Melbourne City hung on. And yeah, anyone else have any particular thoughts about this game?
Just the space that was found in the Sydney defensive line in the first half. It was just a real eye opener to me.
That pass to like in behind for Polacina in the hole, literally just walking around the 18-yard box. Like Nat Tobin was a mile away. Taylor Ray was kind of saw the pass go through, and by that point she couldn't do anything about it. It was a calamity. Bit of a comedy of errors. And I think that, as I said earlier, I think they look really tired. They've had players go away for to the Asian Cup. They've had they've had a relatively stable squad for the whole season, or for the first 11 for the whole season. And like all of these players have played 900 plus minutes, and now they're getting to the point where their legs are going to fall off. And I think that if they really want a chance of taking anything out of this season, they really need to start putting some players in earlier into the match. Obviously, they didn't have Paige Satchel, and they didn't have a defender on the. They didn't have an attacker on the bench because Paige Satchel's away with the Ferns, and
so
Cotter
Ross is away.
Melbourne had the same issue. They were missing Wilkinson and Stott. So I mean, it's not as though.
No, you're right.
I guess it's. I mean, Sydney have probably just been due to sort of have a bit of a slump. They'll probably come back, but right. It's going to be whether or not they're regretting that come premiership. So
and skipping ahead a bit, but it's not. It's going to get a bit more tiring because their next game is in Tasmania. But I might as well do that now. Up next,
this is back to my point from last week. They've had to actually play outside of New South Wales.
Yes,
that's crippling. That's crippling.
Yes, I could tell you, like, I cry every time I cross the state border. It's horrifying.
That's just going to Canberra.
Do not like doing it. Yeah.
And
as across the railway.
I guess also we're not sure how bad the news is yet. I don't think we've heard about Holly McNamara going off with the injury.
I think best case scenario. I'm not a physio. I'm not a doctor. Best case scenario is probably that it's a meniscus.
Yeah.
I think next best is that it's just an MCL, because that means that you can just do that and then kind of tie it back together. But it doesn't look good.
Yeah.
And I think the thing that told the most for me was the fact that Taylor Ray looked so uncomfortable, because obviously she's had 2 ACLs, and I feel like she kind of knew what had happened as soon as it had happened. But I think we'll keep her in our thoughts, Holly McNamara.
Yep.
Not great.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. So we have to move on. So just the games over the next week. So it's a small week, only 6 games. So tomorrow night, Canberra United versus Melbourne Victory at Viking Park. Thursday night football is Melbourne City versus Brisbane Roar at Kingston Heath Soccer Complex. Hopefully you'll get your Savlaki rolls this time. Friday night.
Hopefully Brisbane might just create some more chaos. That's all I can hope for.
Well, hopefully Brisbane get a game.
Hopefully Brisbane get a game, and I don't want chaos. I just want Tory to be on the winning side. Friday night is Canberra United versus Newcastle Jets at Viking Park. So short turnaround for the team in green. Saturday, big one, the Pride game, Adelaide United versus Melbourne Victory at Hindmarsh Stadium. I encourage everyone to watch the Isabel Hodgson video that Adelaide United have posted, as I think it's wonderful. And I think certainly eye-opening for someone who is not of the LGBT plus community. I think I felt like I learned a lot just from that 5 or 6 minute clip. But yes, I think Adelaide, they pretty much done the maths. They're pretty much in the semis if they win, because due to superior goal difference over Perth. So
if Adelaide win this game, that's a huge loss for Melbourne. That means this game could define Melbourne's season. And
Melbourne on short rest, and it's they go on interstate to Canberra, then interstate to Adelaide. So yes. So it's all where it's what you want as a fan at this point of the season.
Yeah.
So that was Saturday. The 2 games on Sunday. Don't get me started on the choice of venue for this one. Perth Glory versus Sydney FC, UTAS Stadium in Onset. Happy for our very own Tanner Code and Molly Appleton to finally get an A-League women in their state. But bro, 2 teams based in Sydney and they make them both travel to Tasmania. Yikes. Anyway. And the one I'll be going to, Western Sydney Wanderers versus Wellington Phoenix at Parramatta. And I don't know how to feel about this one because Ashley Crofts on one side and Mackenzie Barry on the other. I don't know what I'm going to
have. Wellington win this game and Wanderers will get the spoon.
And if Ashcroft scores, I'm fine with that.
Okay, that's it.
Yeah, good. No, so everyone's
good
a winner. Well, except the Wanderers as a whole, but like everyone else is a winner. So
that's a Sunday? That's a double header.
It is. I can't remember who's afterwards because I don't care about the A-League men's competition. So moving on.
Yeah, Sorry, Eric. We should probably talk about the ladder a little bit, very briefly.
Yes. that was in my notes. I then look at it.
There's a big gap between the top 5 and the bottom 5 now, so it's quite astounding if you take a look.
It is. That's not a gap. That's the Grand Canyon. That is.
Yeah.
What it's like 2 different leagues, really.
Well, I mean, the league has split. Yeah, it's split itself into the top and bottom, like the Scottish league.
Yes, it's a natural end of season split. Love it. But,
and most of the games that are coming up are top v top and bottom v bottom.
Yeah.
So like it's obviously, there's a little bit of wiggle room, but like it's quite interesting that we've gotten to this point, and like it's not that the teams at the bottom are just playing for pride, but like it is interesting that we'll get some close, even games, and even in the last few weeks of the season.
And I'm just thinking, can Newcastle get the spoon? No, they can't. No, not. Their goal difference is too good to get past by Wellington. But it's still looming for Canberra, Brisbane, the Wanderers, and Wellington Phoenix. Canberra, Brisbane, and Wanderers on 7 points, Wellington on 4 points. Newcastle moving up, Newcastle on 10, then they're in 6th, then up to 5th, Perth Glory on 21 points. My goodness. Melbourne Victory on 22 points, played 1 game less than Perth and 1 game less than Adelaide as well, who are on 24 points. So Adelaide and Perth have 2 games remaining. Melbourne Victory have 3 games remaining, as do Melbourne City, who are on 27 points. And as we've discussed earlier, they're 2 points behind Sydney FC, who are on 29 points, but with that game in hand. So they could pip Sydney FC if they win their remaining 3 games. Now on to international football. So who wants to go first? Who's actually been keeping track of the international stuff?
I would just like to give a quick shout out to Luxembourg for their 11-0 win over Tahiti. I know that we were all looking forward to that one. And it was, it was a close contest until kickoff. But yeah, I did watch that one. Also found it interesting that Tahiti, so it was a 2-match series. Tahiti play one of their games in Avignon in France, and obviously they're the home team because
they're French. Yeah,
it's in France.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been interesting. Obviously, there's been the She Believes stuff that I'm sure we'll come on to, but it's been really good to see a bunch of the smaller European women's teams getting a run. You had Andorra, Gibraltar, Moldova, Malta, Morocco, and the Faroes having a little mini tournament, I believe, which has been really good. And then obviously, as I said, there's been the what is it? The Arnold I refuse to call this tournament what it's called. Yeah, the Carman Cup, we'll call it.
The Carman Cup. as I've said many times and will continue to say many times, it sounds like a golf tournament.
Yeah, it sounds like
Seriously.
As I said to you, I looked up who it was, and I'm like, oh, maybe this bloke was like, maybe it was like the coach of Dick Kerr's ladies or something like that.
It sounds
And
like
then,
an automatic putting machine.
Yeah, it's literally a car yard. But yeah, it's been good to see a bit of tournament football.
Yeah. Okay. So you mentioned the She Believes. I think I'll just quickly run through the results. So Iceland 1, New Zealand 0, and a great result for Czech Republic drawing 0-0 with the USA. So that was the first round. And then in the second round of games, USA 5, New Zealand 0, Czech Republic 1, Iceland 2. And we have to talk about in the USA New Zealand game.
Oh,
dear. Michaela Moore, a perfect hat trick of own goals. It's just one of those days. And
got dragged at 40 minutes.
Yep, didn't even make it to the halftime break. That's rough.
Tough stuff. Not the kind of thing that you want to see go around the world. But yeah, it's you really and like it wasn't like the McKeegan goal that we talked about earlier. Like that was just like a poorly hit back pass. The keeper wasn't ready, etc., etc. Sometimes you see those things, but like. There was nothing she could have done about any of these, really. They either just, careened off her or she headed the ball at an angle. I really feel for her. And I feel for her teammates because it's not great. It's not a great feeling.
Yeah. So that was in. On to the aforementioned tournament in England named after a car dealer. So it's a low scoring contest, but like so many quality players. So the first round of games was Germany 1, Spain 1, and England 1, Canada 1. Then the second round of games, England 0, Spain 0, and Canada 1, Germany 0. So Canada still proving incredibly difficult to beat. Has anyone been following that tournament in England?
I've watched a little, but
okay.
Oh yeah, no, I guess my main thought is because I've been, I think Cheryl and I and everyone have been talking up Spain. It's like, well. I'm actually been quite surprised that the games have been that tight. I don't know why. Maybe I'm just underestimating England and Canada and Germany, but I do also wonder if there's a little bit of foxing going on before Euros as well.
Speaking of foxing, I've wait for my Queen of the Week. There's like some top class level foxing in the England-Spain game.
So I think they've had some heavy weather there. They've had a lot of rain, heavy pitches, so that's had a role, I think, in those scores.
Because they've had that big storm recently, Storm Eunice, I believe.
Yes. Yep.
So scenes of the stadium roof coming off in The Hague, which was pretty insane. And also I saw a church spire fall over. Not me personally. I saw it on the internet. I wasn't there. But yeah, as you said, they've had a lot of really wild weather lately over in Northern Europe. Spain as well. Like I tend to think of them as a team that obviously hold the ball a lot, but also go forward a lot. So it's really interesting to seeing that these are really low scoring matches as well. So another thing to think about.
Yeah. Okay. So quickly, just because I'm the host, we'll briefly go through the Pinatar Cup because the Republic of Ireland are playing in it. So they beat Poland 2-1 in their first game. It was in La Manga and it was very much party time for the girls in green. So Lucy Quinn and Louise Quinn with the goals, but they lost their semi-final 1-0 to the Republic of Ireland. So they're now in the fourth place playoff against Wales. That'll be a tasty one. Russia and Belgium playing in the final of that particular tournament. And all the teams pretty much around each other in the FIFA rankings. So it's been pretty good quality tournament. And on to the Algarve Cup, which I believe the Matildas decided not to participate in due to just to give everyone a rest because not just the players, but the support staff, they've spent so much time away from home.
I think we need a rest as well. I think us specifically, we should be considered.
Yes, I wholeheartedly agree. But just quickly through the Algarve Cup results. There was actually some unfortunate news here, but firstly, Denmark 0, Italy 1, and Norway 0, Portugal 2. So that's a bit of a surprise, Portugal beating Norway, but good on them. Then Sweden got a 3-0 forfeit win over Denmark. I think you were telling me, Dale, Denmark had to pull out due to COVID cases.
I think you might be right. Yeah, I think there's COVID's being treated very differently over there to the way that it's being treated here. But obviously, the kind of the public health measures or player health measures, I guess, remain the same. So a bit of a bummer. I mean, it's a 4-team tournament now. That's not what anybody wanted.
Yeah, that's it. And then I think a couple of results. Italy 2, Norway 1, Portugal 0, Sweden 4. And then the third, fourth place playoff in that particular tournament, Portugal versus Norway again. And the final is Sweden versus Italy. That would be a good game. Hey?
That would be a great game.
Yeah. So then just a quick Aussies abroad roundup. So up in Scotland, Celtic 2, Hearts 0. It was another start, and from what I could tell, a full game for Jacinta Galabadaratchi. So good some game time, because I think it's something she has struggled with at times during her career. And just once, I want to hear someone with a Scottish accent pronounce Galabadaratchi, because I think that would be incredible. So I think we're just about done here. I think because every other league was stopped due to the international break. Yeah, Amy Harrison didn't play in the Netherlands. So I think on to Queens, Kings, or General Royalty of the Week. So firstly, Stefan, who have you got?
Yeah, so mine's a bit of an unusual one. It's an In Sympathy Queen of the Week, following on from what Dale said about Michaela Moore. I'm a fellow centre back. I've put the occasional one into my own net as over the years. Know how it feels. I can't imagine what it feels like to put 2 in your own net in 2 minutes and then be pulled after a third one after 40 minutes. So, it's an In Support Queen of the Week for Michaela. Keep your chin up.
After you, Madge.
Okay, I'll go. Well, I'm to the stage of now where I'm just supporting players who used to play for the Brisbane Roar. So
are you putting more thought into this than I put into what I'm doing at the moment?
So look, I'm going to give a shout out to one of my faves, Caitlin Torpey, for getting her second goal of her A-League Women's W League career. She got one for Brisbane, I think, last season, and she still had some work to do off that brilliant Vlanic pass, and we put it past the keeper on the slide. So, I'm going to give it to Caitlin.
Okay, so Dale?
I have a queen and a joker. Well, I have a series of queens. My queen of the week is the Czech national team.
Yep.
For their 0-0. Fantastic result. Tough look, then going on to lose to Iceland, though. Iceland and the Czech Republic in women's football don't particularly like each other. The Czech Republic kept Iceland out of the last World Cup. So they have a bit of a score to settle. And my joker of the week is global capitalism for making Georgia Boric give up football for the season. Pay the women what they're worth and make them professional.
So Cheryl's Queen of the Week, the one and only Rebecca Stott, who returned to international football with the Football Ferns at the She Believes Cup. This just the feel-good story that just keeps on giving. Everyone loves Stotty. It's great to see her back playing for her country. It'd be better if she was playing for Australia like she used to, but as long as she's playing. Also, I'll turn my video on because Madge mentioned former Raw players. Let me wait till it comes on. Look what came in the mail today. It's Vine time in my wardrobe.
I love that. Yeah, that's fine.
Yes, so that's it. And my internet can't handle the video, so I'll stop that. Now, I had a series of queens like every week. So one shout out to Chloe Mustaki, who made her senior international debut for the Republic of Ireland 2 years after suffering an ACL injury. And it's kind of linked to what Dale said about players needing to work second jobs. She felt like she overloaded herself in the months before that injury just because she was trying to juggle football and work and the extra training and wasn't recovering properly because she was working. So, yes, a big boo to players not being compensated properly. Second one is an obscure one. We're off to the second tier of New South Wales football, which kicked off on the weekend. Central Coast Mariners forward Candice Phelan scored for the first time in a competitive game since suffering an injury way back in 2018 that could have stopped her from playing. It was very severe. And my third queen is linking back to the football tournament in England. Aston Villa goalkeeper Hannah Hampton made her senior international debut for England against Spain. Hannah Hampton lived for a while in Spain and is fluent in Spanish. And because she can speak Spanish, she was able to listen to what the Spanish players were saying to each other and then pretty much relay the Spanish game plan to her teammates. And that is what clean sheets are made of. Shout out to you, Hannah Hampton, a bilingual goalkeeper. You absolutely love to see it.
Very good.
Yes.
I mean, a lot of continental Europe just has that.
Yes.
I like.
I mean, it's like
I love when you see like that, or like
Yeah.
players like steal the notes that they given by coaches, and then just read them. It's this kind of dark arts that we love on this show.
Yes, absolutely. Like just remember, kids, if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying.
Yeah.
So moving on. So that's pretty much it. So thanks so much for joining us. Just a quick shout out to the fairy godmother of Beyond 90, Cheryl Downs. Hope you're doing well. She couldn't join us this evening, but we've certainly given her a lot to edit as usual. So thanks so much, Madge, Stefan, and Dale, as always, for keeping me in check.
Thanks, Eric.
No worries.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks to all of you, whether you listen to the Beyond 90 podcast, Spotify, Apple, whatever, or whether you're one of the loyal audience for Joy Radio and or Clutch Radio. Thanks so much for listening, and we will catch up with you soon.